everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the
Geek Buddies.
Hey! We are back at it again this week with our main show and a lot to talk about here in the world of geekdom. We got some fun trailers to talk about this week. We're going to jump into some Superman set picks, give our thoughts about all of that and see what's going on there. We've also got HBO Max drama, but also some updates on the Harry Potter series and the Lantern series, some Marvel news as well. So there's a lot to get into here in the world of geekdom. But let's introduce ourselves first. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
I am Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm a television writer and television actor and an animation writer, and I have not had enough coffee, hence this whole switcheroo. Fingers crossed.
Ew. So we'll see what goes on, though. But thank you all so much for joining us and hanging out with us, whether you're listening to us on the podcast feed or watching us here on the Outlaw Nation. Remember, we are available on a podcast feed, so if you don't want to see our pretty faces and you want to take us along with you to the gym or a walk on the beach or maybe while you're sitting in the bath, you can just listen to us. Just type in the Geek Buddies. Hey, it happens.
You want to take a bath with the Geek Buddies? Come on, let's do it. Let's get wild, guys. Let's
get
take a bath and let's take a bath and talk about Chimere from the Acolyte. Let's do it.
Bed Bath and oh my. So yeah, go and subscribe there wherever you download podcasts. We'd appreciate it. For those of you who support us as well, if you hear our commercials, if you hear our sponsors, please make sure if this is a product that works for you that you use our code so those sponsors keep coming back and keep supporting us here on the Geek Buddies. We would appreciate it. All right, so the way the show works is each of us brings a big news item. We take a couple of breaks and jump into our main item, and our main item today is those Superman set picks and our feelings and ideas about all of that. But first, we're going to start out with some Marvel situation. Michael, take it away.
Well, here's the situation. Comic-Con is coming up and Marvel will be there.
Yeah.
People weren't 100% sure, especially after last year's Comic-Con with all of the strikes happening. Panels were not the highlight of last year, and Marvel took a year off, but they have announced that they will be coming back this year. And if you've ever been to Comic-Con, you know that Marvel panel is pretty much the ultimate moment of panels at Comic-Con. They usually really put on quite a show. So everyone is very, very excited about that. And of course, everybody is wondering what we are going to see, what they are going to announce. Marvel's been through it lately. So I think this is an important Comic-Con for them to get people excited. And before I turn it over to my lovely buddies to talk about what we think we'll have at this panel, we also have some other news. So Marvel launched an official Marvel podcast, which is an audio series. It's going to begin, and the first one began with a 15-minute interview with Kevin Feige, because if you're going to start a Marvel podcast and it's going to be official, that's pretty much who you want to start with. And he didn't say anything earth-shattering, but he did say a couple little tidbits that were interesting. He talked about doing the Fantastic Four movie and how that's the one he's really, really excited about right now. And he was quoted as saying that he's extremely excited. Those characters are mainstays, legendary pillars of the Marvel Universe that we've never gotten to play with or explore in any significant way outside of Multiverse of Madness and some fun teases. And he confirmed that it is a period piece, but there's another piece of art that they recently released with Johnny Storm flying in the air making the 4 symbol, and there was a cityscape in the corner of that image, and a lot of people noticed that cityscape didn't exactly look like the New York we knew and the New York that existed in the 60s, and he says those are smart observations. So we already knew that this was going to be a period piece. We already sort of assumed that it was in another universe. And now it seems that universe has a level of technology or a level of something going on in the 60s that we didn't have. So a lot of people are conjecturing, and especially if you look at that first image of the Fantastic Four that was released, that we're going for kind of a Jetsons kind of vibe or something like that. And then the other piece of information for all of us to chew on about Wonder Man, he said that he's really excited about Wonder Man because they're really trying to innovate and do things in a different way. And he says, when you stop trying to innovate, that's when you start to atrophy. I think it's important to tell new and unique stories in new and interesting ways. We have a show coming up that we've talked very little about called Wonder Man that I won't talk about much today either, except to say it's extremely different than anything we've done before. It's very exciting to be part of a company that for 25 years or more and still be able to do things and take characters and storylines in new places. And that's what's exciting to him. So,
Whew.
there you go. Marvel, Hall H. A lot of stuff that they could be showing, a lot of footage we could see, a lot of announcements they could make. As part of those announcements, are we going to see the Fantastic Four cast? Are they going to show us more of this 1960s New York that is not our 1960s New York? Is he going to tell us more about Wonder Man and what makes it so different and innovative? Is it going to be innovative in a way that makes everybody excited? Is it going to be innovative in a way that makes everybody really upset and continues the downward trend of Marvel? Will Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds show up? It's the opening weekend of Deadpool and Wolverine. Lots of things. Guys, what do you want to see at Hall H? And what do you think of Fantastic Four and Wonder Man?
I just want to see a good panel. Like, as Vogel already said, in terms of the panels at Comic-Con, Marvel and Hall H, that is always, within the last, 10, 12 years, I mean, that has become the hot ticket event. I don't know if we've ever seen one quite as good as 2013 when Tom Hiddleston came out in costume as Loki. I mean, I think that's when they really figured out, like, we have touched on something really special with the fan base here. Yeah, I mean, they start shooting Fantastic Four that following Monday in London. So that seems like a long flight. However, Marvel has a history of things shooting in London and those stars, those directors, the cast popping into San Diego. They did it with the first Captain America. Chris Evans and Hugo Weaving and Joe Johnston showed up as they were in the middle of shooting. I feel like they did the same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. I can't remember if the cast showed up, but they had just started shooting in London and they had a little bit of footage. But maybe James Gunn was there. It's been a while. There's been a lot of these Hall H panels. But certainly excited. I mean, I would think it would be a no-brainer to have Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman there. Fingers crossed that we get to see the Fantastic Forecast. Also, there are quite a few projects that they have either almost done or in the can. So we would think that we would probably see the first footage from Captain America, perhaps Thunderbolts, Asterisk. That's for Johnny. But also in terms of the shows, I mean, Agatha All Along is going to be coming later this year. Ironheart is done. I mean, I think maybe they have to do some research at some point, but add into that Wonder Man. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they can show. My guess right now is they probably won't do a ton in terms of announcements because they have so many bullets in the chamber at this point. Maybe it will be an announcement maybe Sean Levy's there for Deadpool and Wolverine, and they announce, oh, by the way, he's directing Avengers 5, and here who is playing our villain, or here who is playing Kang now. Who knows? In terms of Fantastic Four, it had been pretty heavily rumored that it was going to be set in the 60s, in an alternate universe. So getting the semi-confirmation from that from Feige, exciting. Wonder Man, who knows? I mean, we have a couple friends of the show who have worked on Wonder Man, and their feedback has not been consistent. So it will be very interesting when we get to see the first footage from that and what Feige is actually referring to in terms of innovating as it applies to this project. I do know that I like Yahya Abdul-Mateen, and getting to see him throw on the red shades as Simon Williams, that seems like a fun project. But again, we will see.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Hall H is the place to be for Marvel, and it almost never disappoints. The last time it was a little muted. So, okay, this might be a little bit the approach as well. I don't think you're going to see Feige up there with here's all the 700 projects that we got going on, especially on the heels of Blade being delayed so many times. The track record there right now currently is a little shaky. And the Marvels, all this stuff that they're still kind of, trying to get people back in the fold. And maybe Deadpool and Wolverine will do that. And certainly they'll probably have a secret screening of it that only certain people are invited to. I'm sure they'll have a fun with that with Ryan and Hugh showing up. But buried in the story, I don't know if you guys read this. It's kind of just buried real quick as a sentence. it says they're not going to start shooting Fantastic Four until December. So there's no way that's going to be making the July 25th, 2025 date. Yeah, it's like the third paragraph down. They said perhaps Fantastic Four cast of Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Ebon Moss will show up. That movie is set to hit theaters on July 25th, 2025, but it won't shoot until December. So that's an odd line to throw in from Deadline. So are they going to maybe adjust the expectations, adjust what is going to be shown and when? Because we know Iger's come down and said only 3 movies. We're going to slow down the production. So maybe this is going to be used as a reset of expectations and of letting people know when they're dropping this stuff. So, but Shannon, as you said, there's multiple stuff that they can still show that is in the can and that is going forward. But I think this is going to be a massive reset. I don't think this is going to be, let's go to phase 9. You know, I think they're just going to be like, look, we know it's been shaky. Here's what we got going on. Here's the things to get excited about. Here's what we're going to hit. And we'll see what happens. As far as
what is the date of your article, Johnny? Because the one that I read that's from Deadline, which is
this one is from yesterday from Anthony D'Alessandro yesterday at 9:48 a.m. is what is the one I'm looking at. So
because this one says Feige also revealed that the Fantastic Four is about to start filming, and it will start on Monday after Comic-Con, which would be July 29th. That's also from yesterday. That's according to Deadline.
Yeah, weird. I don't know. I mean, I can. Yeah, weird. So
who's right? Only time will tell.
Only time will tell, exactly. But I think this is what you referenced, Michael. So yeah, it looks kind of cool. It looks fun. I like the energy, love the vibe, love the design here, and I like that Feige confirmed it. And normally they would be very tight-lipped about this kind of stuff, but clearly they want people to be in and excited on this Fantastic Four project. And so it's fun to kind of reveal that a little bit. And the Wonder Man, I'm with Shannon. It's anybody's guess. We'll see what happens. Yeah,
I mean,
sorry.
Where I disagree. Yes, they have a lot in the chamber, and I'm sure that we will see some footage of the stuff that we know is coming. I think him revealing that what he revealed about the Fantastic Four kind of taking place in a reality that's maybe a bit more high tech, a little bit. I'm thinking we're gonna get really like Tomorrowland at Disneyland vibes. Like the future of yesteryear is kind of probably the vibe we're gonna get, and I think we're gonna get not footage of it, but maybe concept art, maybe an explanation, maybe the Fantastic Four cast is gonna come out and talk about it. But where I disagree is like, yeah, they do have a lot in the chamber, but they also have a lot that they have to explain. Nobody knows what's going on with the Kang of it all. Nobody knows where they're going with 100%. These Avengers movies. Yeah. I don't think they're going to shy away from that. I think that they know that this is a captive audience. They know that what they do in this panel is going to instantly get tweeted around the world. So I do think they're going to come in and put some big stakes in the ground. I don't think they're going to say this is what's happening for the next 3 years. Because I think there's probably a lot of internal things that they don't know, but I think they are definitely, they're not going to come in and do here's what we're excited about for the next 12 months and we'll tell you the rest later. I think they are going to come in and give us some really big news that we're not expecting to get everybody really, really excited. So we'll see.
The Kang thing will be interesting, but again, that's part of the reset, right? Like, will they address it? Will they say what's going on? Will they move forward with it? And maybe they'll announce who Dr. Doom is, right? If the article Shannon's reading is right, then that's the perfect time to announce it if they're going to start shooting that Monday, the next week. Or if they're going to start shooting it later, maybe they don't announce the Dr. Doom. But certainly that's the place to announce it if you're going to. And I'm sure Galactus will show up and Ralph Ineson and others to be part of it. I'm sure Yaya will be there for Wonder Man. I'm sure Catherine Hahn for Agatha. That makes all the sense in the world. And maybe Vision, maybe Paul Bettany shows up and they'll talk about the idea of what they're going to do with that Vision series. So.
I mean, Kevin Feige's a great showman. I mean, I can definitely see Kevin Feige on that stage going, look, we've had some hits, we've had some misses. He in the whole article that came out recently that John didn't like, where Marvel said, "Oh, we're on our heels, but we like being on our heels."
Oh, yeah.
And I think they've put that out there. So I think there's probably a high likelihood of him coming out and saying, look, we've been on our heels. We got to this point after Endgame and we hit this point and we tried different things and some stuff worked and some stuff didn't. And we've reset and we've talked to Disney, but we're really excited. And we still have some big things coming that you don't know about. And we're going to tell you about it today. Like that is straight out of like the Marvel playbook. So I'm imagining that we're going to get something like that and we will be there and we will tell you all about it.
Well, did you guys get a hotel already or are you still?
Yeah.
You did. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations. But do we think do any of the old, does Downey Jr. show up? Does
No.
Chris Evans show up? Do any of the old school guys show up? People show up? No? All right.
None of the old school people who are no longer actively involved.
Okay. All right. Well,
from a PR standpoint, I do think some of those people will be showing up in Secret Wars for sure. But I don't think that when you're already sort of on your heels and you want to get people excited about where you're going, you don't trot out the people that were the hits from before and be like, look, we're bringing them back. Just still like us. I don't think that's quite the vibe. I could be wrong. I'll happily say I'm wrong if Robert Downey Jr. walks out on stage, but I don't think that that's what they're going to do.
Because I feel like there's an argument to be made that you could rekindle the excitement by bringing them back and reminding people of the greatness of Marvel. But maybe you're right, Mike.
Yeah,
maybe
but the instant reaction, half of Twitter goes, oh my God, I'm so excited they're back. And half of Twitter goes, wow, they tried to do new stuff and they couldn't. So they're bringing out the old people because they just want to hit that nostalgia button and say, hey, look, it's going to be like it used to be. Like there's that bringing those guys out is a double-edged sword, I think.
Yeah, fair point. All right, well, let's take a quick break. We'll jump into some more stuff here. We'll talk a little HBO Max right after this.
That
score still gets me. All right, let's get into the news here that happened over at HBO Max here. This was released earlier this week that Max Content, HBO Max Content CEO Casey Bloys, let me bring this up while we talk about it here. There's stuff happening over there at Warner Max, HBO Max rather, and they're changing the delineation between what an HBO show is and a Max show is, and they're moving most of Max's upcoming big budget tentpole Warner Brothers IP projects to under the HBO umbrella. And as you're looking at there, that includes the Harry Potter TV show, as well as the It prequel series and the just announced Green Lantern series. That's also going to be part of the HBO banner. And this is a fascinating situation because, in other words, major DC franchises and other big budget titles will all now be branded as HBO originals. And this is a switch from what they recently did here when they put everything in the bucket and it was Max. It was all Max. And Casey Bloys said, we felt like we had to delineate between an HBO show and a Max show. The idea of using Warner Brothers IP as a delineation from Max felt right. At least that gives you a clear lane. But as we started producing these shows, we were using the same methods, the same kind of thinking as how we would approach HBO shows. In a lot of cases, the same talent that has worked on HBO shows. So this won't affect The Penguin and Dune Prophecy, which are both very clearly Max and have been branded as Max. But starting in 2025 is when they'll start looking at this stuff as HBO originals, and then Max will be something else. Max will start developing series that are just for Max, including The Pit, which is from John Wells and R. Scott Gimmel, and Duster from J.J. Abrams and LaToya Morgan. So how many streaming services do I have to go get HBO now as a channel again? Like, this is all such a clusterfuck of like, we thought this worked. We thought we'd make it Max. Clearly we fucked up. We did some internal studies. And people love HBO more than Max. We're going to make this change now. So, Shannon, you're shaking a head. I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts?
I mean, again, not being on the business side of our business, I don't. This ever since that merger happened, and you took a platform that I thought was fairly successful, and at least from the audience, from their subscribers, everyone seemed to really like HBO Max. Like, you know, in terms of just the library of content that they had, in terms of the film, the Warner's films, the HBO, you know, the history of, you know, HBO on television. Like, this change just seemed kind of dumb. Like, I don't understand why they decided to merge the Discovery Plus with the 90 Day Fiancé universe with The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Like, that decision just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And again, I was just like, look, I don't understand the whole numbers thing. Smarter people than me, they know what they're doing. Well, clearly not, because apparently everyone loved HBO Max and people don't really like Max. You know, HBO needs a place for their original content. You know, the whole thing just kind of confuses me. This seems like a lot of unnecessary business card making. that you were the head of content on one, now you're going to be the head of content on the. All right. At the end of the day, HBO produces a very consistent product, and having HBO above your title seems like it's probably a smart move. And why you would stop doing that doesn't make any sense to me. But again, throw it over to the business guy. He knows more about this stuff.
I'm known for being such a whiz at business.
What's in the frame behind your head? It's dollar bills. It's framed dollar bills.
Dollar bills.
You know what you're doing.
I think this is mostly something that affects everyone in the industry behind the screen and not really affects anybody who's listening to this who's watching HBO Max. Like, that's what I think. Like, I don't think that they're splitting it up. Like, HBO, like, Max currently has HBO content, like Succession or like True Detective, and it has Max content. And it also has Adult Swim content and has a bunch of stuff. And those executives... There's different executives for the different things, and there's different things. And like the big thing in the article, and I'm going to say a bunch of stuff, and like half of our friends who are at Warner Brothers or Max or anywhere are going to tell me that I'm wrong later and text me. So y'all can text me and tell me I'm wrong. But in my understanding of everything, what's really being split apart here is you have big tentpole shows that you're going to spend some serious money on and get some serious talent on. And then you have stuff you're doing for Max, which is not that you're not doing good stuff, but they made a big delineation even in like storytelling. Like Max shows are like a 10 episode run, high budget, and it's an arc story that goes over all 10 episodes. Max shows are procedurals or stuff that you might see on a network. It might be elevated, but it's more of like a network show. It's here's a doctor who's doing this, and each week he's doing this. It's what you would see on a traditional network as opposed to a premium network. And so I think they're just making this delineation. And I think a lot of that has to do with A, who's willing to spend more money, and B, the type of executives you're working with, who the talent likes working with. Like this is all behind the scenes delineation. Ultimately, for everybody sitting at home, you were gonna go to Max and watch Harry Potter or the It series or the Green Lantern series, and you're still gonna go to Max and watch Harry Potter or the It series or the Green Lantern series. What's gonna change is behind the scenes, which executives are working with which talent and how much money they're getting per episode. So I think that's really what the thing is. So it's one of those things that it's like, for our friends working in the industry, and particularly our friends working at HBO or working at Warner Brothers or working at those places, things might shift around as far as who you're talking to, who you're dealing with, how you're covering a show. But for everyone sitting at home watching, the app that you go to watch these things, I don't think is changing anytime soon. I do think also they probably did discover at some point in their research that the HBO name does carry with it an understanding of quality. Like, I do think that throughout the years of HBO doing things, like before we had Max and we were just going to HBO, what was HBO? Was it HBO Plus?
HBO Go, I think.
HBO Go.
Whatever
HBO.
The hell it was.
Yeah.
But like, there's an understanding of like a Succession, House of the Dragon. Like, there's certain types of shows that you're like, oh, that's an HBO show. And I think probably in the research, they did understand that people understood that there was a higher quality level there, and they want to lead people in that direction. I would assume. So I think this is a lot of behind the scenes stuff for people living in the city that we live in. And I think for everyone else, it's kind of like, yeah, you're still going to get the shows.
Well, we don't live in the city. Yeah, but yes, you two do.
I was including you in the wider SoCal arena.
Don't you co-opt me into that mess. The thing is, I think you're right, Mike, there at the end. I think your main point there at the end, I think what you said at the end is the main point here. This is a rebranding. This is essentially a rebranding. HBO is prestige. Max is not so much. And so it doesn't mean that you can't find great stuff on Max. It just means this is the shit we want to win awards. This is where we're bringing our award stuff. It's no different than an overall company that owns like a McDonald's and a high-end steak restaurant. Like there's just different approach. You know, one's going to be for certain things.
McDonald's. You got McDowell's.
Yeah,
one has the Big Mac. One has the Big Mick. We both have 2 all-beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, but they got sesame seeds on their buns. Our buns have no seeds. Sorry.
He's taking pictures. I mean, that's essentially the delineation here. Look, we all knew it was stupid. They probably spent like a lot of money to do some behind the scenes study with focus groups. And at the end of the day, they came out looking like idiots that they made this decision. So I give them credit for readjusting and being like, no, you guys were right. We're not going to say you were right, but you were right. And we'll make the change now. And this makes sense because I think the idea of also, you got to look at the creatives, right? The idea of going to do an HBO show, like there's something about that carries weight and prestige because of the branding versus Max. And so I think that's going to help them attract even more quality talent, which of course they really haven't had trouble doing, but you'll understand that more as a pitch.
But the app is staying Max, right?
I think the app is staying Max for now.
Yeah,
so you're right.
So the rebranding is more for, again, the rebranding is more for like,
yeah,
I think this is something that most people sitting at home like the fact that the Penguin is a Max original, but the Green Lantern show is going to be an HBO show. Like in the big scheme of things, I think it has more to do with internal stuff. But who knows? We'll see. Our friends will text us in 20 minutes.
Just tell me where I need to go. That's basically it. Before we leave WB though, I want to ask you guys about these two bits of news that dropped here. We did get the showrunner news for Harry Potter here, the series that's coming up from HBO. And it was Francesca Gardner, which I called on the hot mic back in February, thanks to a certain connection there, that Francesca Gardner will be showrunning this show for the Harry Potter series. And Mark Mylod will direct multiple episodes, both of them from Succession. So that to me tells me we're going next level with this Harry Potter series. There's going to be a darker edge. And I know there's darker stuff on it. I don't want to get Michael all riled up, but like they're going to lean more into that and exploring that a bit more. That excites me. The writing here is going to be tight and strong, and I'm looking forward to that. And on the other side with the Lanterns, we're going to have Chris Mundy from Ozark, which I think Jeff broke on the hot mic as well, will serve as the showrunner on an 8-episode drama and co-write the series with Damon Lindelof. So there's a lot of prestige around both of these projects with the people attached to it. What are your thoughts here, guys?
Well, and this is what I mean by the rebranding of the whole thing has maybe a little bit more to do with the behind the scenes stuff. Like Team Succession, Damon Lindelof have had a lot of success working with the HBO side of the business and the HBO side of executives. So it kind of makes sense that if you're like, well, this is the team, there's a whole team of executives and other people that you're working with. You're like, well, that's the team that they're more used to working with, not the Max team. So I think that that's where a lot of that maybe comes into play. But yeah, I mean, look, I think the thing for both of these shows is those are quality. Like you can tell that they know what they got to do with these shows.
Yes.
The Harry Potter one, man, that we've talked about this, but like, between the navigating who your big boss is, who nobody wants to be the big boss anymore, but she still is. So you got to navigate it. It's going to be wild.
It's picking fights with David Tennant now. Yes.
And then figuring out how to retell a story that's already been told in a beloved, like it's going to be really interesting to see what that is. But anybody who thinks that people aren't going to watch that show are crazy. Like that show is that's a high profile show. Lanterns, I've heard, I've heard that it's kind of a little bit less space battle, more True Detective, but I think that's kind of cool. And so I'm really excited for that. I mean, I think even in the announcement, it said, Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan are two of the most beloved Green Lanterns. And they are. Like Hal Jordan is your OG. If you love Green Lantern and you've always loved Green Lantern, Hal Jordan is your OG. And if you grew up watching Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, Jon Stewart is your Green Lantern. So I think using those two is really, really smart. And yeah, kind of the vibe is like True Detective with aliens. That sounds good to me. So,
all right, Shannon, your thoughts on these people being involved? And I should mention Tom King also co-writing the Lantern series along with Damon Lindelof and Chris Mundy.
I mean, in terms of Harry Potter, like I thought the team from Succession did an incredible job with that series. It would take, I don't know what name it would take being attached to a Harry Potter series that would get me jazzed for it, just because it doesn't matter the level of the name, justifying its existence is hard for me to wrap my head around right now. Okay. Now, the moment that I see some footage, I might be like, man, they nailed it, because just right now the movies are so recent, and you're remaking something that a generation of kids grew up with, and those kids are not that old right now. So again, just the its existence still perplexes me a little bit. I mean, from a business side, I get why you would do it because you want to capitalize on that Harry Potter brand. But again, my opinion could change in a heartbeat the moment that I see some production stills, stuff like that. In terms of Lanterns, man, that's the series that I'm really, really excited for, because doing a true detective style series with two space cops on Earth trying to figure out a crime, that is super, super exciting to me. And just having Tom King, who is a big comic book writer, having him involved as well, like Damon Lindelof. Watchmen is one of the better shows that HBO has produced in the last 10 years. So that everyone involved with that, I'm super into. And I'm excited to see how much money they're going to pour into this, because even though it takes place on Earth, we got to see some power ring action.
That's for sure. And certainly I think House of the Dragon is a nice barometer for the approach they might have for a show like this. It would imagine. Yeah.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 came out in 2010 and Part 2 came out in 2011. And by the time this series gets to screen, we're looking at, about 15 years or so.
Yeah.
Which means an entire new generation of children have been born that are ready to watch Harry Potter.
So you think the show's a good idea?
I think.
Oh boy, that was some hesitation.
No. It's literally what I said. Like, I'm not as unexcited about it as you are. I don't think that retelling Harry Potter is a horrible idea. I think there's lots of other stories they could have told, but I also think the taste of Fantastic Beasts probably is a bitter taste in their mouth.
Yeah.
But no, but for all the reasons that I think telling that story again,
there's a lot of fumfering going on. Is it a yes or a no?
The fumfering is, I think it's a safe idea. I think it's a safe idea, but I do think the argument that the Harry Potter movies are so recent is almost a 2-decade-long argument that doesn't really hold water.
Yeah, I mean, for me, not having read the books, I'm excited for the series because there's a lot that we didn't get, from what I understand from a number of people who have, like you guys. We didn't get a lot in these movies that are in the books. So to see more of that explored with this incredible collection of people involved in it gets me really excited. And on the Lantern side, Shannon, I agree with you. I thought this was going to be a throwaway series that was going to be fun, and they were going to do this stuff. You bring in these heavyweights, now I'm in a whole nother expectation camp. And I've got to watch Ozark. Everyone tells me it's fantastic, but I'll have to add
watch Ozark.
Yeah, I had to. I've got I've got a list of great television that I need to still watch. And if I could, the problem is everything I watch is to do stuff on the channel, so I don't even have free time to watch most of the time stuff.
Between our text messages this morning and this revelation, there is a lot of things that you need to be watching.
I know, and maybe people shouldn't be so sensitive about it when I don't get to it, because it isn't because I'm ignoring it. It's because I'm fucking busy. All right. Well, anyway,
we're gonna get a text about that too.
Good. He can send it to me direct. He's like Jekyll and Hyde. Anyway, all right, let's take a break, and we'll get into some trailers on the other side with our friend Shannon McClung right after this.
I
don't know what that was, but all right, here we go.
Mikey knows what it was.
Was that Batman? Was that Batman?
There he is.
All right, take it away, my friend.
With trailers. Just recently, we got the first look at the teaser for Batman Caped Crusader. This is the spiritual successor to Batman the Animated Series, coming from Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves, and Ed Brubaker is an EP on this. I didn't know that. Nice. This is the Batman story, but this one is taking place in the 1940s, and it has an all-new voice cast of characters. Hamish Linklater is Bruce Wayne Batman. Christina Ricci is Catwoman. Jamie Chung is Harley Quinn. And it looks like we are getting a very realistic Two-Face being voiced by Diedrich Bader. This is one of those shows that was announced that it was like the fan base immediately is just like, awesome. I cannot wait to see more of Batman from this group of people. But after the WB Discovery merger, this became one of the shows that was going to be going to HBO Max and was sort of lost in the shuffle as they were purging their DC content, looking for some cash. It was like, where is Batman Caped Crusader gone? Is it going to end up any place? Well, it's going to end up on Amazon Prime. I am super jazzed about the first look at this series, but I'll throw it over to you, gentlemen. Mikey, our animation expert, what did you think of our first look at Batman Caped Crusader?
Yeah, given that it's Bruce Timm, given that it's Matt Reeves, like there was a lot of excitement around this. And I think the trailer delivered on that excitement. I think it looks great. It looks reminiscent of Batman the Animated Series, absolutely. But they've made some really smart choices in changing it. I was actually talking to somebody over at Warner Brothers Animation, and I think what's really exciting about this, as well as My Adventures with Superman, which its second season is now kind of airing on Max through Adult Swim, is that when we were growing up, Batman the Animated Series and Superman Adventures and Justice League Unlimited, they were great shows. And there was a bunch of people working on those shows who you could tell were wanting to tell more adult stories and went right up to the envelope as far as they could. But at the end of the day, these were shows that were boys action kids shows on kids networks. And what we're seeing with My Adventures with Superman is a Superman show that's very firmly in the YA target demo. Like, it is a young adult series. It's not having to do things that are super kiddie. It's telling a really interesting story. And with this, just right off the bat, it's like, it looks like Batman the Animated Series plus. It's like, oh, here's the Batman the Animated Series that they wanted to do, but they couldn't quite do because it was still a kid's series, and now they can really go for it. So again, I'm not saying that means that it's like all of a sudden super dark and violent and there's blood everywhere, because I don't think that's the vibe. But this feels like a show for the grown-up Batman fan, and it just looks great. I'm very, very excited for it.
Johnny, you ready to go back to Gotham City?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I love classic movies. And the 1940s vibe, the 1940s energy, this old school energy of this one is exciting. Having Citizen Kane references in there was great. Having what was another reference? I think it was a couple of Cagney films being referenced in certain spots, and so having that energy and that vibe of this is really fun. And I was just really blown away, because initially I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this style. Oh, it's been a while since I've seen. Oh, okay, all right, cool. I'm in. I like this. It's cool. It's fun. It's sexy in certain moments. It's an interesting take on Two-Face. So I'm like, okay, all right, this could be fun. Hamish Linklater, I'm not 100% sold on the voice. I like the voice in the beginning parts of the trailer. I don't like that extended take he has in the later part of the trailer. So I'm not sold on his voice as a Batman voice. And so I'll have to come around on it and see how I feel in the context of the actual show. Maybe it'll 100% work for me. But for right now, that's my only reservation. And that's a slight reservation. Everything else, though, looks so much fun. And I would love to watch the show and start making notes about like the references to what films that are in here. So that'll add another element to my enjoyment of seeing this. But this looks like the animation, the design of these characters, I guess I should say, looks really cool for the world they're inhabiting. So yeah, I'm totally down.
It's interesting that you mentioned the voice, because that announcement trailer that they did where they were just announcing some of the cast and Hamish Linklater, I'm with you on that one. I was like, this doesn't sound like doesn't sound like a Batman to me. Yeah. But in the trailer where we actually get footage from the show, right, he won me over. He won me over a little quicker than he did you. But my guess is by the time this comes around, I think you're going to be a Hamish Linklater Bruce Wayne stan.
Probably.
That's just my guess. Yeah. But this 10-episode series starts on August 1st on Amazon Prime. And that brings us, even though we're in summer right now, the holidays are right around the corner. And that brings us to our next trailer for Red One. So this one was the subject of an article from The Wrap about 6 weeks ago or so, talking about the massive budget overruns that this has gotten to, reaching up to, as of right now, $250 million. A good chunk of that being laid at The Rock's feet with his inability to get someplace on time, perhaps 8 hours late occasionally. What we got in this trailer, J.K. Simmons as a buff St. Nicholas, Chris Evans as a put-upon private investigator, The Rock as a kind of an elf, and a CG polar bear. that I thought was really, really funny. But Johnny, I'll throw it over to you. The Rock's your guy. What did you think of our first look at Red One? Are you ready to pay $250 million for this?
I mean, look, I love The Rock. I love The Rock, but I've also been honest. Black Adam and other stuff has been great. His WWE return eventually turned out really well. And certainly the man is moving into, once again, being a mover and shaker, signing that first look deal with Disney. But this is like Norbit coming out when you've been nominated for Dreamgirls. This is the peril here, because this A24 film he's working on right now with Benny Safdie is getting so much buzz that this could be the one that shows off what an incredible actor he is. That being said, in the trailer, he is fun. He is great. He's got the right comedic timing. He's got that 100 or 1,000 megawatt smile, and he's really relaxed in this environment. Chris Evans looks horribly out of place and totally miscast. None of his jokes hit for me. J.K. Simmons, my guess is he's the one behind all this. What a surprise. You don't cast him to turn him into a damsel in distress. There's more going on here. I do like the inventiveness.
You think
I'm allowed to
Santa
give my
Claus
thoughts.
is the bad guy?
Yeah, I do actually. Those muscles, come on. He's probably been doing some things on the side. The other thing is the Krampus thing. I thought was funny until they went into Dana White UFC slap fights. Which, if you guys haven't seen that, that's an actual league that is around, a slap fight league that's been around for years, where you slap each other till one person is knocked out or can't stand up. So the fact that they weave that in, that tells me The Rock put that shit in there because he's connected to Dana through Endeavor. So there are just little elements of this that I don't think worked that could have worked, but there is some magical stuff. The snowman stuff I thought was fun. The Krampus stuff, I thought the look of the design of that character was fun. The polar bear, which I think is Jeremy Renner. There are elements that could be fun, but this feels like Candy Cane Lane, where it was okay, but not great. And that may be what we get coming out of this trailer. And I've heard from Jeff that the behind the scenes stuff of the actual film, like the reactions to the film, have not been positive from Amazon. So we'll see.
Mikey, you ready to dash through the snow for Red One?
Well, it's like the hard part about this is you can tell it's going for that Jumanji kind of vibe.
Totally. Yes.
And Jumanji's great. Both Jumanji movies are great. Like,
and it's the same director.
And it's the
Jake
same
Pasner.
director. So it's like
right.
You're looking at the director who gave us Jumanji. You know that The Rock really, like, he was great in those Jumanji movies. Like, that was just a great cast across the board. Everybody did an amazing job. And the vibe and the humor and the whole thing. And you can see that they're like, on paper, going into a room being like, look, we got the director of Jumanji. We got The Rock as an elf. We're going to do this whole thing where this elf has to team up with a private detective who's on the naughty list. And he goes on this whole journey where he ends up learning that how to be a good person, getting off the naughty list, and they save Santa. And it's like a whole big buddy cop thing, but it's Christmas. And you go, all right, on paper, this seems like a good idea. Like, this seems like this will be a really big, fun holiday thing. And then you've got J.K. Simmons, you've got The Rock, you've got Chris Evans, you've got Lucy Liu. It's like you've got this whole cast. You're like, okay, so like great cast, high concept comedy from the guy who brought us Jumanji. Like, everything looks like this should be like, oh yeah, this will be a fun holiday movie. And so I don't know why watching it, aside from the polar bear, who I also thought was very funny, you just watch this and you go, what's off?
Yeah.
Why isn't this? Yeah. Why isn't this? And like, at first I was like, is it one step too far away from Christmas? Like, and what I mean by that is, so you're going to do this big action movie at Christmas. Great. And you've got the talking polar bear, you got the snowmen fighting, you got the whole thing. And I was like, is it that Santa's lifting weights? Like, if you had cast like a actual Santa and The Rock, and there was a bunch of elves, and you kind of went the elf route with Will Ferrell. Like, The Rock was the one elf that was like, all right, they brought me in because somebody's got a deal. I don't know. Like, if everything felt really Christmassy except for The Rock and Chris Evans, would that, like, I literally sat and I watched the trailer twice because I was like, this should be fun. This should work. And yet I am not enjoying this trailer. So I was very baffled. And I do wonder if, and I think sometimes this is true. Sometimes when a shoot is really, really rough,
Yeah.
behind the scenes and nobody's happy, that feeling comes through the screen.
Yeah. 100%.
And I'm wondering if there's a little bit of that to it. I don't know. We'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see. But I was not thrilled by that trailer.
I mean, if you don't get Vogel on a Christmas movie, you've really messed up.
Yeah,
Like,
and I fucking love, like, I'll go see anything.
Yeah. I know. Hallmark has you on speed dial. I know. But yeah.
Will Vogel say ho 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 or oh no no? Only one way to find out. November 12th when Red One comes out. And speaking of the holidays, what is more appropriate to come out on Christmas Day than NOSFERATU from Robert Eggers, a remake of F.W. Murnau's classic vampire film starring Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok, featuring a very impressive cast that includes Nicholas Hoult, Willem Dafoe, Ralph Ineson, Emma Corrin. So Robert Eggers, he's a very unique filmmaker. When you like Robert Eggers, I mean, you cannot wait for the next Robert Eggers movie. I am not necessarily in that camp, but I do like a good Dracula story, especially one that is set in the proper time period of the late 1800s. And even though Count Orlok is not technically Dracula, this trailer, eerie as all get out. Despite most horror films that I have no interest in stepping foot in the theater of, this one, I might actually have to do it. Whether or not I'm going to do it on Christmas Day, that remains to be seen. But Mike, you like to see me squirm in a theater. What did you think of our first look at NOSFERATU?
Robert Eggers is weird.
Yeah. That's the understatement of the year. Yes.
It's going to be a weird movie. I feel like Robert Eggers movies, though, I feel like there's, I think there's movies that we go to see and you kind of can turn your brain off and have a good time. And then there's movies that you go to see and as you are sitting in the theater, you're like, I got to really work for this. I gotta really work for this. And I feel like Robert Eggers movies is like, you got to go in and be ready to be like, okay, I don't quite know what that meant, but we're going to put that away. That is a very upsetting visual. So that's going to sit with me for the rest of my life, but okay. And then, okay. We jumped here. I don't really know what's going on. I'm gonna have like that. I know I'm gonna go see this movie and I'm going to get out. I'm instantly going to get on the internet and read 12 articles about this movie and go, oh, okay. Got it. But I kind of like that. Like I enjoy the experience of it. So when I say Robert Eggers is weird, I kind of enjoy the weirdness. It's not my go-to. I'm a guy who grew up on Spielberg movies, but like it's not my go-to. But I love visiting that weird space, and I also love a good vampire story. I love modern vampire stories. I love vampire TV shows. I love vampire slayers. I love gay vampires. I love vampires. So yeah, I'm definitely in, and I'm hopefully gonna sit next to Shannon and laugh at him for the entirety of the movie, except for the parts where I'm scratching my head trying to figure out what's happening.
Johnny, after you open your presents, are you ready to go see Bill Skarsgård rip some throats out?
You know who's a Robert Eggers guy? This guy right here. This guy right here is a Robert Eggers guy. I've seen The Lighthouse like 7 times. That is a fucking awesome, the insane movie. And The Northman has replaced 300 as my like raw type of movie that I love to death. The Northman is awesome. So I'm a big Eggers guy. And so the idea that he's going to tackle NOSFERATU, which by the way has been tackled back in the 70s, Werner Herzog did a version with Klaus Kinski that I also enjoy, which is super fucking wacky. The original is the movie that was the first horror movie I ever saw at 7 years old, scared the living hell out of me, and I was scarred from it for years. So the fact that they're going to do another take and it's in Eggers' hands, I am crazy excited. Plus the cast is really cool and fun. And the trailer looked like this is a version of the story you've never quite seen, and it's got a nice artistic vibe to it while also honoring the foundational pieces of this German horror film. So that makes me very, very excited to see it. So yeah, I'm 1,000% in on this, even though I'm probably going to be climbing the walls next to Shannon on this one, but probably laughing most of the time from the joy of getting scared.
But I'm going to be freaking out. I'm going to be sitting there just eating my popcorn, sipping my Coke Zero, going, well, this is lovely. I don't know what half of it means. I got to go read some articles. Having a blast. What's going on? I don't know.
Did they just get into a VW bug? Anyways,
Anyway.
Nosferatu comes out December 25th.
Yeah, and there's nothing weirder than Willem Dafoe in that smoke scene in The Northman, for God's sakes, when they're down in the
Well,
pit.
Willem Dafoe and Poor Things might give him a run for his money.
Oh, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. My father hated my balls. Anyway, all right, let's take a break, and we're gonna get into these Superman segments right after this.
Do, 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 do. Do, do, do.
All right. So before we go forward with this, I want to make this really clear. There are going to be
That's a
spoilers.
horrible sound.
I'm just saying there are going to be spoilers. There are going to be spoilers from these photos. So if this is as far as you want to go with the Geek Buddies and you don't want to hear our speculation on these set picks and our thoughts on these set picks and where this could be going, then this is the time to stop. Thank you so much for watching or listening. We love you madly. For those that are sticking around, we are going to be putting up some of these set picks or set leaks. So this is a fair warning that don't get mad down in the comment section, because we're telling you 1,000% that we might spoil some stuff. So just letting you know, we're going to do this right now. All right. Are you guys ready? Shall we jump into this? All right. Michael, I'm going to have to go to you first with these Superman shots. These were leaked. Apparently, a number of people have cameras and have been taking shots of stuff that's going on there in Cleveland with this shoot that's going on with Superman. We've seen the Clark Kent photos now, as I just showed you the Superman photos. We've seen the Lois Lane photos here with Rachel Brosnahan, and we've seen the Mr. Terrific photos, which the less said about Grace Randolph's response, the better. And so we've seen this approach to Superman. So what are your thoughts here as you're looking at these photos and the speculation of the reveal possibly that we're going to get a more than one villain in this particular film? What are your thoughts here, brother? And the look and the feel and the vibe now on set.
My first thought is I wasn't aware that a black man's haircut could be political until Grace Randolph. So
I mean, really.
So that was news to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think these photos are great. Like, yeah. I do get a little worried that day one of shooting, the internet blew up and we've seen so many. I'm like, are we going to have anything about this movie that we don't know by the time the trailer comes out? So I do think I was as excited as anybody else about seeing every one of these photos for the reasons that we're going to talk about. I do hope we calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
I do hope we don't do this for the next year. But
good luck.
You know, there is just this genuine excitement, and I'm not even gonna start crapping on anything. We all have our Supermen that we like. And some of us like some Supermen and some of us like other Supermen, but it just feels like
how very magnanimous of you. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
For the most part, there is just this real joy and excitement about seeing all of these characters pop up and truly, even with pictures taken with an iPhone, look like it's a comic book image that was ripped out of a book.
Yeah.
There's just something cool about it. Like Lois Lane in the purple, Rachel Brosnahan just looks, I mean, like, look at this picture. If you're listening to us, you can't look at it, but it's the Superman and Lois are like walking through some kind of area with a bunch of soldiers, and like Lois is in the black pants, the purple shirt, Superman's in his outfit. This looks like a comic book.
Yeah.
And there's something just fun about it. It's bright. Mr. Terrific looks terrific. Mr. Terrific looks awesome. Like Mr. Terrific, literally, again, this is a comic book image come to life. These images, there's no attempt to sort of like contextualize it and make it look real or make it look gritty or make it look like anything other than like, this is the comic book.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of fun. I know like there's a lot of concern about how bunchy Superman's suit looks. I would remind everybody that digital effects don't just create aliens for us. They also get rid of things like bunchy suits. So I think that by the time we get through color correction and digital work, I think everything is going to look really good. Johnny just put up a picture of Superman being carried away by soldiers and a masked figure with a U on his chest. So getting into things that we can extrapolate from this. Superman looks like he's being taken away by soldiers. We got Rick Flag Sr. next to him on one side. We've got the engineer next to him on the other. And we have this mysterious masked figure with a U on his chest that some people are feeling might be Ultraman.
Yeah,
which is interesting because if you don't know Ultraman, Ultraman is the Superman of the crime syndicate of America, which is from an alternate reality where the Justice League is the crime syndicate and they're all bad guys, and Lex Luthor is a good guy. That's a lot to throw into your first movie in your DC universe when you're already introducing Engineer, Metamorpho, Guy Gardner, Rick Flag Sr.,
The Authority.
Possibly. Maybe not the Authority.
Okay.
Maybe not the Authority. We only know the Engineer. So I've been looking at rumors. So one of the rumors is that this guy is Ultraman, but maybe not the Ultraman that we know. And we're not doing a crime syndicate of America. Is this a Lex Luthor created clone that is going to degrade and become a Bizarro? That something? Is the Engineer in this movie as her own hero and then gets recruited by the Authority by the end of the movie? And why is Superman being arrested? What did he do? So, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of confirmation of characters that we're seeing and we get to see them in their costumes, but there's a lot of questions that are raised here. So when the first image is out, are Superman being carried away by soldiers and a masked guy, you're like, okay, well, something goes down here. But gentlemen, what do you two think?
Yeah. What do you think there, Shannon? What are your thoughts on these pictures and you have the vibe of them and also the aesthetic here? I mean, look at these, the Daily Planet truck there, the Metropolis Police, the Women's Committee of Metropolis commemorates the women's conquest of Metropolis. So the aesthetic and the vibe and the energy. And what's your thoughts on this Clark Kent, which essentially curly bangs there in the front? What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
I mean, I am one of those that's like, yeah, the super suit looks a little bulky, but also this is being taken from an iPhone. That is not a still from a camera, from a film camera. So that is probably, or not even probably, it might not be how it looks. I think David Corenswet looks great as Superman and as Clark Kent. I mean, I think them putting their own spin on Clark Kent, they're like, you know what, he's always had kind of a little bit of a different hairdo. It used to be just like it's down forward. Now we're gonna slick it back. Lean into the fact that he has curly hair. Let's obscure his identity a little more. I'm like, I think that looks cool. Okay. There's also a shot. I don't know if we saw it, but there was also a shot of Lois Lane getting off a plane, either a downed plane or a ship with Perry White's.
Okay.
Well, the entire Daily Planet, Cat Grant, Jimmy Olsen, all of them.
See, I did not. I only saw Rachel Brosnahan and Wendell Pierce getting off. But and again, Wendell Pierce, yeah, he's shirt and tie. Wendell Pierce is Perry White. Yeah, totally makes sense. Edi Gathegi. So I don't follow Grace Randolph. I don't know what she said. Edi Gathegi looks like Mr. Terrific. Yeah, like that is a comics accurate suit. That is a comics accurate mask. Like that is Mr. Terrific right there. And Edi Gathegi again, really terrific performer, and he was I saw him at Comic-Con a couple of years ago, really tall guy. So the fact that he's a superhero, great, fantastic. He looks great. The Engineer, that's a character, again, I don't know the Authority, so that's not someone that I'm as familiar with. But yeah, she looks imposing. She looks efficient. The sort of, cousin of Black Noir here, like whether or not it's Ultraman or not. Again, looks cool. Rick Flag trading his Frank Grillo trading his Hydra getup for whatever organization Rick Flag's involved with. Across the board, I think this looks cool. I also think it's very funny that the people of Cleveland, they are very photography centric. My guess is that and having some family from Cleveland, they've all confirmed this. But my guess is this is just the beginning, because whatever they needed to shoot outside, they probably didn't get in one day. So we're going to see some more photos of this.
But yeah, no, with whatever that is, the downed spaceship, I literally couldn't tell you what it is, but yes,
bring it up here. There's the shot there of
you got Lois, you got Perry, you got Jimmy, you got Cat Grant, you got Steve Lombard. So you've got literally the entire staff of the Daily Planet in these images. Yeah. And I think they all look great, and I don't think any of their haircuts look political. So I think it's great.
I know, right? Oh my God.
Dare I ask what this statement was, or do we even want to dignify it?
Essentially referenced the look of Mr. Terrific, and she felt that it was making a political commentary of referencing black protest movements in the
hair. The hair was higher than normal. I guess it was a more retro haircut from like a time when black men were more militant. I really couldn't even begin.
She's basically making a Black Panther's connotation, and then
in general, just the whole cast wasn't sexy enough.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh wow, that's fucking ridiculous. That's because Rachel Brosnahan, super fucking sexy. Corenswet, sexy. She's out of her fucking mind. Like the cast is pretty sexy, I would say.
I mean, I'm not kicking anybody in that cast out of bed. So
yeah, there's also video. I didn't want to put the video up because I think that's a little far, but there is video if you guys want to see it of him being let out. But Michael, I got to ask you. I saw Superman being arrested by the military in a previous Superman fucking film, and I didn't see the joy and excitement that all these people are conveniently having seeing Superman getting arrested by the military. I saw a lot of these Donner babies crying about that would never happen. He would never be arrested by the government. So you tell me, why are they arresting him in this and it's okay, but arresting him in Man of Steel is not okay?
Well, everything is in the execution. I don't I think this happens a lot where this happens literally all day on Twitter. It was happening all day yesterday after the 5th episode of The Acolyte, where people on different sides of the geek spectrum will take one specific thing and said, oh, well, you didn't like this, but now you like this, so how come it's okay? It's like Superman being arrested is a perfectly valid thing. It just depends what you do with it.
Right.
And I think that given just the brightness of the costumes, I mean, like half of these images are just David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan just smiling at each other with like megawatt smiles. Like there is just a inherent sort of fun and brightness to this. Granted, we haven't seen this, to Shannon's point, through a camera. We haven't seen it color corrected, but James Gunn has been pretty clear on what his vibes are. And so if Superman is being arrested in this movie, I think based on what James Gunn has said, it's pretty clear that ultimately the message here is going to be Superman is the big blue Boy Scout. So whether he gets arrested because there is an Ultraman flying around doing stuff and he turns himself in because he's like, look, that's not me, but I get it. I understand. I'm going to go with you. Or he's getting arrested for some other reason. The overall vibe that most people are getting is we're entering a world where superheroes are already in existence. Yes. And there are already a bunch of established superheroes out here. Is Superman new? Is he not new? We're going to find out. But it seems that Superman's way of superheroing is going to be challenged. And that there are going to be other heroes that are darker heroes, more violent heroes, more we got to get the job done heroes. And Superman doesn't do things in that way. But if Superman, I mean, and this is me just totally pulling stuff out of my ass. But if Superman is a hero, is a hero that says, I don't hurt people, I don't do this, I don't do that, and then all of a sudden there is a Superman going around hurting people, and he gets arrested and has to answer for that, and you're like, oh, did Superman all of a sudden go bad? And then that's the movie. So like you can sort of see when you're like taking what James Gunn has said, you're looking at these images, that's the very long-winded way of saying a Superman getting arrested in this movie is still probably going to ultimately, the point is going to be Superman is the big blue Boy Scout. Whereas in Man of Steel, you know, he killed Zod.
Oh my God. Here we don't start. I
literally stated a fact. That you can like it or not like it. At the end of Man of Steel, he kills Zod.
He saves humanity. Tomato. But the thing though is, I agree with you. It's about execution. I thought, Superman surrendering himself in Man of Steel because he didn't want to scare people. I thought that was great. It worked.
I have no issue with that.
I was just saying. I hope the same thing happens here. Is what I'm saying. Yeah. But I like the look. Listen, I'm with Shannon. Look, we don't know what this is going to look like on film, but I like the vibe. I like the energy. Seeing it on him, it very much reminds me of George Reeves, the old school Superman, combined with a modern take. I like the red trunks. I know a lot of people are having issues with the red trunks. I got no issues with the red trunks. I like this approach. And if you're going to go big blue Boy Scout, you got to really make this work. So I appreciate that James is swinging, and you might not think he's swinging for the fences, but nowadays in a much more cynical society, the idea of trying to get this to work is actually rebellious. And I kind of like that. So how can you make, because I mean, everyone around him is probably going to be skeptical and questioning and whatever. So he's got to fight against all that skepticism to bring hope back, possibly to Metropolis and the world. So that excites me as an approach, certainly. And especially as, you know, as we're about to deal, as we're recording this first presidential debate tonight, the idea of political mudslinging for the next few months is not something a lot of us are looking forward to. So
it's
something
cute that
bright.
you think either of those two old men could sling mud.
Well, yeah.
I don't think they could.
Yeah, one of them probably thinks his feces is mud. But listen, this the whole thing I'm looking is that will this work out in the future? And I like these setback, and I like Mr. Terrific. I like the look of Lois Lane. So I'm in, and I'm excited to see more. Any Shannon, anything? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Well, no, I was going to say, I think one of the things people need to remember, and I think it's one of the biggest tricks that Marvel pulled with phases 1, 2, and 3 of Marvel is that if you read Marvel comics, the Steve Rogers in the Marvel movies is not really the Captain America from the comics. The Steve Rogers from the Marvel movies is Superman.
Yeah.
Like everything about Steve Rogers in the Marvel movies, this aw shucks guy who is like, who's just a good guy who wants to do right. In the you all can argue with me in the comments, but Captain America in the comics is a little bit more military, a little bit more by the book, a little bit more like the Steve Rogers that we saw in X-Men 97. The guy who's like, all right, I get it, but I got to do what the president said. And Steve Rogers in the Marvel movies, there's been articles written about it. Just his personality is a lot closer to Clark Kent Kal-El than it is to Steve Rogers in the comics. And so it was kind of proof that like that whole lack of cynicism, genuine guy who's just going to do the right thing no matter what. It works because it worked for Marvel. And I think if James Gunn can pull this off and bring that to Superman, it doesn't mean, look, we got the Authority coming. So it doesn't mean that the entire DC universe is going to be nice and light and fluffy and we're not going to go dark. Like from what I've heard, the Authority movie is going for what an Authority movie should be. And having a universe where you have a big blue Boy Scout and the Authority coexisting, if you pull those both off tonally and you do it right, that can be really, really exciting.
Yeah, agreed. Shannon, your thoughts on this? Any final thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, I mean, one, having polar opposites is good.
Yeah.
And having like if what Vogel has heard is true, like how they're going to do the Authority film based off of what you guys have told me about that series.
Yeah.
You want you want the other side of that coin. And the other side of that coin seems like it is going to be Superman. Like I don't personally, and from a design aspect, like I've never liked the yellow S on the cape. But that is such a small little thing. Why is he putting an S on the cape, Mikey? If they see a guy in a blue suit with a red cape, they don't need that. They don't need the yellow S. They're pretty sure they know who he is.
It's like sports where they put their name on the back of the jersey.
If you really want to start going down the line and logicking out superhero costumes,
time.
But to the suit, like, yes, we have not seen it. We have not seen the way it's going to appear on screen, and that's the most important thing. The new 52ness of the suit, I like that suit. I like the raised collar. I like the etchings. I think that works, but I understand that's not going to be for everybody. But at the end of the day, if you want to see a good Superman movie, a design aspect of the suit that doesn't work for you shouldn't impede your enjoyment of that movie. Right.
I do think, as much as I think he looks great, and as much as I think the suit does look really good, and I'm excited to see how it looks on screen, I will say that, look, Superman is my favorite superhero, but my favorite comic book character is Lois Lane. And just from the moment Rachel Brosnahan was cast, I was like, this is perfect. And everything in every photo that she exists in right now, like, I cannot wait to get the first trailer for this movie or the teaser for this movie and hear her as Lois Lane, because I think I would argue that the best Superman stories a big chunk of defining those stories, the best Superman stories, it's kind of contingent on the Lois Lane.
Yeah, I think.
And I think that
100%
even people who love the Snyderverse, and I respect that y'all love it, I think we all agree that maybe Amy Adams was not the best Lois Lane.
No, we don't agree with that, and that's a fallacy that you Donner people push out there. That's not true. So we're gonna move on.
Wait until we get off this podcast and Rocha's like, no, I agree with you. I agree with you.
No, it's not true. I love Amy. I almost tweeted that out yesterday when someone put that up there. That all Man of Steel people can agree that this was a bad pairing. I mean, you guys are out of your fucking minds. They had great chemistry. Anyway, all right, let's get on. That's it. We're done. We got to go. We're an hour and 10 minutes. We got to get out.
Ringing the bell. I'm ringing the bell. Match is over.
It's done. It's done. It's done. All right,
it's your channel. You can finish the argument when you want to, I guess.
Since when do I let you speak, Mr. One more thing. Anyway, let's get out of here. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us, whether you're listening to us or watching us. We appreciate it madly. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. You can tweet me and tell me why you agree that a yellow S on a red cape, unnecessary. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel and tell him the same thing, it's at MGay2. And if you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha and say, hey, I like Amy Adams, or not an Amy Adams fan, you can follow him at The Rocha Says.
Come on, she's so smart. Mikey, what do you have to say, bro?
Well, we would also appreciate it if you smash that like button below, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page, check out all the amazing content he's got there, because he can stop those videos whenever he wants. And when it's hot, apparently video's over. Go ahead and leave your comments below. Let us know who your favorite Lois Lane is. Let us know what you thought of everything. And why don't you let us know what you think of Edna Mode, the fashion designer down there, our favorite mini geek buddy. And while you're doing that, also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, leave us some stars and some comments so we go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. You know, someone did a live action TikTok of Edna Mode and I can encourage you guys.
I follow that account.
Do you? Oh, that was incredible. I'd never seen it.
You don't know how hard it is to duck walk like that.
That's what I'm saying. Not to mention the set, the amount they spent on the set to make it look like that. I was like, this is incredible. So just a suggestion. All right, let's get out. Thank you so much. You guys take care of yourselves. Be well. Have a great weekend. Watch all our other reviews that come out this week. We talked about The Acolyte. The Boys will probably be out by the time this is out. And also, and our House of the Dragon as well. Those are all out for you all to enjoy and catch up on this weekend as well. And come back next week for another brand new episode of The
Geek
Buddies!